Why do I do what I do? When I first began my sales career, I was off drugs for about a year. One of the things a lot of people don't realize about getting off drugs is getting off drugs is the easy part. Once you're done, you've got a lot of cleanup to do, relationships to rebuild. And for me, I struggled a lot with the mentality that I had already ruined my life and that I really just had to salvage what I could out of it, but there was no greatness, no big potential ahead of me, which is an absolute lie, by the way, if that's where you are now. But I was making $10 an hour in a restaurant. I hated the work, but I had to work. And so that's where I was. And one day I was scrolling through Craigslist and I answered an ad that just said positive sales rep needed. And then it was one of those really vague ads that nobody answers. I'm like, these people will talk to me. So I made the call and it ended up being home improvement sales. And I was like, okay, cool. I know a little bit about home improvement. Yeah, let me come in for an interview. So I get there for the interview and I kill the interview, right? Like I knew that I could do this. Like this was the first spark of like potential or like future in my head in a long time. And I knew I could do this. And they're like, hey, one thing though, this is 2 weeks of unpaid training. And the guy goes, and I'll never forget this question, can you afford the opportunity? And I'm like, dude, I have been late on my rent, broke, for the last 10 years. 2 weeks ain't nothing, man. And that's exactly how I said it. And he started laughing. Needless to say, I started the next Monday. Well, I went through 2 weeks of sales training. A Friday night, sales training finished. I went out and I made $1,146 on my first lead that I ever ran. It was a siding lead, and I was hooked, right? So this was like a completely life-changing opportunity for me. I went from $10 an hour to on track to do six figures in my first year, and I was excited. Well, one day the boss, the owner, calls me and he goes, hey, I can't make it for the sales meeting in the morning. Can you run it? And I'm like, yeah, man, I was so excited. I stayed up all night just figuring out what I was going to say and how I was going to do this meeting. And the second I stepped in front of those people, I knew that I had to help people get better at sales. In 3 months, I had earned the position of sales manager for the company. I think mainly because they didn't have to pay me a lot and I would still run leads and make most of my money. First spark of like the action closer system, and I didn't call it that then, was when I first trained a new salesperson. Watching them go from that same, like not knowing where they were going to go to having a six-figure opportunity in their first year blew my mind. For more than a decade, I worked to create the action closer system so that I could help build life-changing sales organizations. That's why.